Let's move on to another concepts, which are loops, right? Loops are very, very important concepts in any programming construct that you have. And for loop is like one of the, basic programming constructs that can use for, different purposes, right? So how do we create for loop in Python and so on, right? So here, what we have done is basically we have created a list which contains 4 different, integers, and then we can loop over the given sequence by using this command for prime in primes print primes. So this is how you can essentially initiate and run over different component using for loop that is out there. So you can see when I execute this code, we get 2 3 5 7, which basically runs through for equal to 1, for I equal to 2, and so on, and goes on printing 2 3 5 7 and so on. Yep. Now, for loops can also iterate over a sequence of number using range function. And so what you can do is for I in range 5, so it will essentially run all the numbers in the overall range. So what you will do is it will print out 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. Okay, and that is what another command and how you can use for. Okay, if you want to print something in the range of 3 to 6, right? And if you define that range itself, you can use a for command to print for that too. So you can see the numbers which are in between 3 to 6 are 3, 4, and 5, and that's why we are printing out 3, 4, 5 using this command for I in range, braces 3, 6, semicolon. And if I want to print out I, in that case I will get an output 3, 4, and 5. Okay, what if I want to print in an increment of 2s within a given range? And that's the command given here. So what I want to do is I want to print numbers which are between 3 and 8 but with increments 2. Okay, so I want to print out 3, 5, and 7. And if I want to do that, that is what is illustrated by this code block, where you can specify for I in range braces 3 and 8, which defines the range, and then the 2, which defines the increment in which we need to be printing out, and that's what we can use to print out 3, 5, and 7. Okay, we can use the enumerate function to get a counter and the values from iterable at the same time, right? So we have same thing that we have defined a primes which contains set of 4 integers, and then what I can do is I can essentially use a for I value in enumerate primes. If I want to print each of them, I can use the command that is given there in this code block, and for different index values. So at the first index of the primes, which is prime 0 location, we have a value of 2, prime 1 location we have a value of 3, prime 3 location we have a value of 5, prime 4 location we have a value of, for prime 3 index we have a value of 7. That has been listed here. So depending upon at what index what value has been stored, if you want to know that, you can use this enumerate command to get those values that are out there. Okay. Another function that is important is this zip function that can loop through 2 sequences simultaneously. So what we have here is we have 2 lists, names and ages, and if I want to loop through them simultaneously, I can use this this zip command, which is listed here for names and age in zip. Names and ages, I can want to print them simultaneously. I can do that by doing so here. So you can see here that we have John age 20, Rick age 19, Tim age 21, White age 20 simultaneously printed by zipping function that we have here. Let's move on to another loop, which is while loop, which is also an important programming construct that are used in most of the programming languages, and Python also has while loops. So here is one example or code block that illustrates how to use while. So what you want to do is we want to print out numbers 0 to 4 until and unless we satisfy the count number. So count equal to 0, while count is less than 5, we want to print the count variable that is out there and then increment that variable by 1 each iteration, and that's what is listed in this code block that we have here. So if I want to run this code block, I should get a printout which runs and prints 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4 because our while command is allowing us to run in multiple different iterations. Similarly, we can use break and continue statement because if if you put conditions and if you want to break and come out of the loop or continue doing some processes in certain conditions, then you can use this break and continue statements inside your code block in Python to do that. So one of the examples that we have here that where we have provided this break condition. So if the count is greater than equal to 5, then we will break and exit out of the loop itself, right? So that's what is listed here. So let me run this code block. So if I run this code block, I'm increasing the counter. Okay, so it's initially started with count equal to 0, so it's taking 0, it's adding 1 to it. After printing, it's adding 1, and as soon as the count is greater than or equal to 5, it essentially breaks the while loops and comes out of the while loop, and that is what is being executed by this code block that we have right here. Okay, and that's why we have been only able to print out from values from 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and so on. Okay, because as soon as the count value reaches 5, we break and we exit the while loop. Okay. Similarly, what we can do is we can use continue command. So what we want to do is we want to print out only odd numbers. Let's say 1, 3, 5, 7, and so on. So I have a code block that allows us to use the continue function. Count ampersand 2, which is basically, if it is not divisible by 2, and if the remainder is not 0, then you increment the counter and you continue. Else, what you do is you print out and you add count plus 1 to the counter function that we have here. So if I run this code block, we can see using this continue function, we basically allows us to print or create a nice structure that allows us to print essentially the odd numbers up to 10. So 1, 3, 5, and 7, and on. Okay, so these are examples where you can use continue or break to continue inside the loop or break inside while loops and so on and come out of the while loops that we have.